January 7th, 1945. Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force, Versailles. Supreme Commander Dwight D. Eisenhower signed the order that would strip British Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery of command over 300,000 American soldiers, the entire U.S. First Army. For 6 weeks, Montgomery had commanded both British and American forces during the Battle of the Bulge. But what he said at a press conference on January 7th would cost him the largest Allied army in Western Europe and permanently damage Anglo-American relations at the highest levels of command. What you're about to discover will change everything you thought you knew about Allied unity in the final months of World War II. December 16, 1944. The German Wehrmacht launched Operation Wacht am Rhein, a massive surprise offensive through the Ardennes forest. Hitler threw 3 armies, 29 divisions, against a thinly held American sector, creating a bulge 60 miles deep into Allied lines. The German breakthrough split American forces in two. General Omar Bradley's headquarters in Luxembourg lost direct communication with the U.S. First Army under General Courtney Hodges fighting in the northern sector. On December 20th, Eisenhower made a battlefield decision. He temporarily placed the U.S. First Army and the U.S. Ninth Army under Montgomery's operational command. Montgomery now controlled over 300,000 American soldiers alongside his British 21st Army Group. This was supposed to be a temporary battlefield expedient, nothing more. The U.S. First Army would return to Bradley's command once the German offensive was contained. But Montgomery had other plans. Drawing on Eisenhower's personal diary, Bradley's wartime correspondence, British cabinet papers held at the National Archives in Kew, and transcripts of Montgomery's notorious press conference. This documentary reveals how Montgomery's arrogance and public claims of having saved the American army led to the most serious command crisis of the entire Western European campaign. To understand how a single press conference destroyed Montgomery's command of American forces, we need to examine what Montgomery actually did during the Battle of the Bulge and what he claimed he did. According to SHAF operations logs from December 20th through December 26, 1944, Montgomery's first actions upon taking temporary command were not to launch immediate counterattacks. Instead, he ordered American divisions to pull back and consolidate defensive positions. Documents held at the U.S. National Archives show that Montgomery immediately began reorganizing the U.S. First Army, according to British doctrine, cautious, methodical, with heavy emphasis on building up reserves before any offensive action. General J. Lawton Collins, commander of U.S. 7 Corps under Montgomery's temporary command, wrote in his personal diary on December 23rd that Montgomery's first words to him were, "You've taken a proper beating. We'll have to tidy up this mess." Collins noted Montgomery's condescending tone and his insistence that American forces had panicked and needed British steadiness. But the documentary evidence tells a different story. U.S. First Army battle reports from December 16 through 19 show that while the initial German assault achieved Prize, American units at St. Vith Bastogne and along the northern shoulder held critical positions. The 101st Airborne Division, surrounded at Bastogne, refused surrender on December 22nd. The 2nd and 99th Infantry Divisions on the northern shoulder stopped German advances cold. These were American stands made before Montgomery arrived. General Omar Bradley's memoir, A Soldier's Story, published in 1951, contains a devastating account of Montgomery's behavior during this period. Bradley wrote, "Montgomery stalked into my headquarters like Christ come to cleanse the temple." Bradley recounted that Montgomery immediately suggested the Americans had been incompetent, that their command structure had failed, and that British leadership was now saving the situation. American commanders who served under Montgomery during this period consistently testified to his patronizing attitude. General J. Lawton Collins later stated in post-war interviews that Montgomery treated American generals as if they were students who had failed an exam. Lieutenant General William Simpson, commander of the U.S. Ninth Army, also under Montgomery's temporary command, wrote to Bradley that Montgomery's staff treated American liaison officers with barely concealed contempt. But there's more. British officers close to Montgomery began noticing something troubling. According to the diary of Major General Francis de Guingand, Montgomery's chief of staff, Montgomery was already planning how to present the Battle of the Bulge to the press, as a story of British command saving American forces from disaster. De Guingamp warned Montgomery against such public statements. Montgomery ignored the warning. The numbers tell the real story of who fought the Battle of the Bulge. Between December 16, 1944 and January 25, 1945, American forces suffered approximately 80,000 casualties, 19,000 killed, 47,500 wounded, and 15,000 captured. British forces under Montgomery's 21st Army Group suffered approximately 1,400 casualties during the same period. American divisions bore 98% of Allied casualties in the Ardennes. The U.S. Third Army under George S. Patton, fighting south of the Bulge under Bradley's command, not Montgomery's, advanced over 60 miles in brutal winter conditions to relieve Bastogne by December 26. Patton's forces then drove north, attacking the German southern flank. By early January, it was Patton's Third Army and Collins' 7th Corps, not Montgomery's forces, that were collapsing the German salient. Montgomery's British XXX Corps was brought up as a reserve force but saw limited action. The Germans withdrew not because of Montgomery's cautious approach, but because American forces were destroying their flanks and cutting off their supply lines. But Montgomery wasn't satisfied with simply commanding American forces during the battle. On January 7, 1945, with the German offensive collapsing and American forces clearly on the offensive, Montgomery called a press conference. Transcript preserved at the National Archives, in Q, reveal exactly what Montgomery said. He opened by stating, "The battle has been the most interesting, I think possibly one of the most interesting and tricky battles I have ever handled." He then described how he had employed the whole available power of the British group of armies to support the Americans. Montgomery claimed that when he arrived, the situation was somewhat critical. He said American forces were in disarray and that he had taken certain steps to ensure that if the Germans got to Meuse, they would certainly not get over that river. Meanwhile, at Bradley's headquarters in Luxembourg, American generals listened to BBC radio reports of Montgomery's press conference with growing fury. Bradley immediately telephoned Eisenhower. According to Eisenhower's personal diary entry from January 7th, Bradley was so angry he could barely speak coherently. Bradley told Eisenhower that if Montgomery retained command of U.S. First Army, Bradley would resign and return to the United States. Bradley stated flatly, "I cannot serve under Montgomery. After what he just said to the press, I will not serve under Montgomery." Unknown to Montgomery, his press conference had just ended his command of American forces. January 7, 1945. Within hours of Montgomery's press conference, Eisenhower faced the gravest command crisis of his tenure as Supreme Commander. Bradley's threat to resign was not an empty gesture. If Bradley resigned, other senior American commanders, Patton, Collins, Simpson, might follow. The entire American command structure in Europe could collapse. British Prime Minister Winston Churchill immediately recognized the danger. According to British cabinet papers from January 8th, Churchill telephoned Montgomery and ordered him to issue a clarification. Churchill understood what Montgomery apparently did not, that the American public and American commanders would never accept the narrative that British leadership had saved American forces. On January 9th, Churchill himself spoke in the House of Commons, attempting damage control. Churchill praised American forces, calling their stand at Bastogne, and on the northern shoulder, the greatest American battle of the war. But it was too late. Eisenhower had already made his decision. On January 17, 1945, exactly 10 days after Montgomery's press conference, Eisenhower issued the order returning U.S. First Army to Bradley's command. Montgomery's temporary command of 300,000 American soldiers was over. He would never again command American forces. The order was final and irreversible. According to SHAF Chief of Staff General Walter Bedell Smith's memoirs, Eisenhower told his staff, "Montgomery will command British forces. Bradley will command American forces. That's how it will remain until the end of this war." Looking back, we can now see that Montgomery's press conference was an act of monumental arrogance that backfired catastrophically. Montgomery believed he could claim credit for the Allied victory in the Bulge without facing consequences. He was wrong. Some historians claim Montgomery's cautious approach in late December prevented a deeper German breakthrough. But SHAF after-action reports prove otherwise. American units on the northern shoulder and at Bastogne had already stopped the German advance before Montgomery took command. American counterattacks in early January came from Patton's Third Army in the south and Collins' 7th Corps in the north, aggressive, rapid maneuvers that were distinctly un-Montgomery-like in execution. Montgomery's British forces provided flank security but were never the decisive element. The evidence preserved in American, British, and German archives is consistent. American soldiers fought the Battle of the Bulge. American commanders directed the counteroffensive. American blood paid for the victory. Montgomery's attempt to rewrite that story in real time cost him command of the largest American army in Europe and permanently poisoned his relationship with American military leadership. The long-term consequences were profound. For the remainder of the war, Eisenhower structured operations to minimize Montgomery's role. When Montgomery proposed a single northern thrust into Germany under his command, Eisenhower rejected it, choosing instead a broad front strategy that gave independent sectors to both Montgomery and Bradley, ensuring Montgomery would never again command American forces. This is a story they didn't teach you in school. Montgomery's press conference on January 7, 1945, was not simply poor public relations. It was a command decision that cost him an army, 300,000 American soldiers, whose commanders refused to serve under a man who publicly claimed credit for their sacrifice and courage. The evidence, preserved in the archives of three nations, is undeniable. Montgomery's arrogance ended his command of American forces and ensured that the final drive into Germany would be an American-led operation. The Battle of the Bulge was won by American soldiers, and they would finish the war under American command.